You have to email them twice if I can
Okay, we ready to get started?
So yeah, just tell them your name and what section you're from. We're the 4 o'clock
Okay,
class.
today's the 9th. We're finishing chapter 5. We got an in-class assignment as we get towards the end of class. Let's not let me forget. Homework assignment that will be due on Wednesday, your last homework assignment other than the house. And then chapter 7, the last 2 lectures, and we're done. 3 lectures today and 2 others. Also, on announcements, you should have seen the investment simulation paper instructions are posted. Some deadline reminders. Let's talk about the investment paper. Is this it? No, is this it? What's it look like? Right there. Here we go. This is due on the 16th before class begins. You can either email it or give me a paper one. I prefer paper, but it doesn't have to be. There should be 4 paragraphs. Intro paragraph, which should be very short. Then it says a PE, which is price earnings ratio, and beta explained paragraph, which we'll talk about in a second. Lessons learned paragraph, and then your calculations paragraph. And that's it. Length should be 1 to 1 1/4 pages, right in that range, not including the cover page. So there's a cover page and then 1 page or 1 1/4 pages. Use, let's see, 3/4 of the page should be about writing, 1/2 to 3/4, and then another 1/4 to 1/2 page of calculations. Use either single space or 1.15 spacing, which is the closer together type spacing. Use size 12 font, which the instructions happen to be in size 12, so you can see. And normal margins at the top, bottom, and sides. You know, don't try to make big margins to say, oh, there you go, it's fitting on a page. So, intro paragraph should be very short, and somehow, whatever you're going to write in your intro paragraph, please include your username on Investopedia, your ending portfolio value, which a lot of people get the ending value wrong because Investopedia keeps changing after the game ends. So you got to know what your value was after the market closes on the 12th, the last day of the simulation. And then it says ending portfolio value and your ending ranked position, 1 through whatever. Now don't worry, like if you're saying, hey, I'm in 76th place, but there were 9 people, there were 9 dead accounts. I'm going to subtract those 9 dead accounts, or 8 of them, whatever they are, and move everybody after those numbers up about 8 spots. But whatever it says on Investopedia place you're in is what I'm looking for in that intro. All right, so those things. Just short. Then, the paragraph that has a little bit of content to it is this one right here. You pick one of your investments, any one of them you want, that has both a PE ratio and a beta, either when you bought it, which is what's preferred, or if you didn't write it down currently, what the beta and PE ratio is, and then explain what it means to an investor when they see the number. And real quick, give me an example. Paul, I opened yours up because we have never talked about your portfolio, and you said, I'm selling everything because you're in the top 10, and you said this back in March and haven't bought anything since, and still in the top 10. So it's worked out for you at this point, but you have to have a transaction in April. So you only got a few days left to do something. And if you buy something and you don't want to take on the charge of selling it, you don't have to, everybody, you don't have to sell everything by the 12th. You can just let it sit there in your portfolio. It's whatever your portfolio value is right up there in the corner, which includes everything you own in investments. By selling on the 12th, you can do that if you think the price is going to head down by the end of the day, but you're really just taking on a $6.99 or $7.99 fee for no reason. So if you think you want to hold on to it and not sell the last day, you can avoid that fee. And it's whatever that value is up there. Now this same value will be on the rankings the next day, which would be the 13th. After like 6:30 a.m., I think, it finally updates the rankings. And you can go there then on the 13th, if you weren't able to get here by the 12th, go to the rankings and see what the value is. The 13th rankings I'm downloading, and those are your official values for this paper. And if for some reason you didn't get it on the 12th from here when the market closed, or the 13th on the rankings, you can email me, or if you just want to confirm, hey, here's what I think my value is at the end of the game. What do you have? I just want to confirm it. That's fine. And you get one of your participation emails out of the way if you ask that question before next Monday. Oh, the reason I brought this up is I went ahead and said what court. I didn't know what court was. And it was Concept Therapeutics Incorporated. Pharmaceutical type drugs, therapeutics? You have no idea? How'd you pick it? I mean, you just saw it like on Yahoo Finance webpage? Or?
Yeah, I looked up like stocks that are going to be going up.
Oh, really?
Quickly, and found one, and I was like, all right.
It worked out. Everybody hear that? Was that like a Google search?
Yeah.
Stocks that are going to be going up. That's a great one. Well, it worked out.
When it went up, and I was just like,
And look at, and you sold it, and it's up another 3.72% today. But how did the market do today, by the way? The market is, wow, it was up over 1.5. NASDAQ was up over 2% earlier today, so it gave most of it back. The market closed 8 minutes ago, so this may be still settling, but only to be up 0.19 of 1%, 19/100ths of 1%, or 0.2, is means it came down a lot in the last hour, because about 2 hours ago it was up, over maybe 1.5% or something. I was going to say we could be having another downfall for our market to go up that fast today. It was up over 2% in the NASDAQ. Just was a bad sign in my opinion because of how down it's been. You want to see gradual increase. That means, okay, things have settled down and now maybe it's heading to back up, and I always use that as a buying sign. There's bargains out there because of how many times it's gone down. But if it goes up too fast, that it historically has told me it's going to have another down coming, so just wait. It's so hard to predict where the down ends and the up starts, because you want to buy on the way up. So you got till the 12th. Today's the 9th, so there's the 10th, 11th, and 12th. 3 days that you can get a transaction in for April. Buy or sell something for April if you have it. Oh, and then what I was going to say is, look at the PE ratio. If I were to write my paper, it's the only company has in there right now, I would be talking about the 16.19, whether that's average or below average, up average, and what it means according to risk, a beta of 2.28. Wow, that's very different from a lot of the other betas, so it makes it interesting. And so if you pick this company, you've got to write about what that means. If you were just thinking about buying this stock and you see a beta of 2.28, what does that mean? Relate it to risk a little bit on that paragraph. Relate it to these numbers, what they mean as far as risk. So that's all I got for that. Where's the rest? So that paragraph says, pick one stock, one investment that has a PE ratio and beta, talk about the numbers as if what it means to an investor who might be thinking about buying that stock. And that's all that is. And if every company in your history does not have both a PE ratio or a beta for some reason, that's the only circumstance that you're allowed then to pick any company. It doesn't have to be one in your history. But when you pick a company that's not one that you invested in, I'm going to be looking at each company in your history to say, do you really have every single company in your history that you've invested in doesn't have a PE ratio and beta? Maybe that's true. And if that is, then more power to you. Pick any company you want to do this middle paragraph. Then it says a very short paragraph explaining 2 lessons learned. You don't have to elaborate. Just go to the point. One of the lessons I learned is, and you want 1 or 2 sentences. And the second lesson I learned is, and 1 or 2 sentences. 2 things that you may have gotten out of this assignment, no matter how much you got into it or not, just from hearing the lectures and talking about it at the beginning of about half of our lectures, we talked about Investopedia, so maybe you learned it from that. Just 2 lessons you may have learned. And then the last paragraph is your calculations. I'm asking for 2 calculations. One is, you got to show step by step your work. APY. You're going to take your profit or loss and turn it into an APY, and it looks like more people lost money than made money on this year's Investopedia simulation. So I want to show you what will take place if it's a loss. let's say you're at 9,500 at the end of the 12th, and so if you started with 10,000, the loss would be the difference, which is 500. Now, don't put a negative here. Don't do it. The APY won't turn on. Make it a positive, like as if you made 500. At the end, when you get to the end of your calculation, so real quick, what is this? 500 divided by 1,000. I can see people want me to finish. Is that, let's see, 0.05? Yeah. And then you take that, you add it to 1, so 1.05. You put it to the exponent, 365 days. Number of days for this Investopedia game. We started on the 10th, count the days to the 12th, however many days that is, right there. You do this, you're going to get equals, I'm making something up here. Say it's 071. No, 071. 0.071, 1.071, excuse me, minus the 1 back out, you're at 0.071. Turn it into a percentage, move the decimal 2 places, 7.1% APY, and then you would put the word loss or gain if you made profit. One of these words, loss, gain, profit, wasted, I don't know, something that indicates whether it was a loss or a gain. Do not use a negative number. It will not turn on. So you do all the work, add 1, get that, subtract 1 back out, multiply times 100 and turn it into a percentage, write the word APY, and then somewhere, either before or after the APY, write the word loss or gain, or profit, or something that means the same thing.
So I'm not sure what you did with 365.
This is the exponent for this. Real quick, I want to make sure everybody knows where to find this formula, because I know not everybody asks questions. It was chapter 4 in the back on page, there it is, 132. There's 2 APY formulas. It's not that real easy one. That's if the time was exactly a year. It's the hard one where you're using an exponent, and that exponent is, the top has to represent a year, either days or months or the number 1, and then the bottom is the amount of time the investment took place. That's the exponent. So this is going to be, I'm going to guess, let's say it's 90 days. 365 divided by 90 is like 4 point something. So 1 point, whatever this turns out to be, 1 point, whatever this is, to the exponent of 4 point something, whatever the amount of days that is. Okay, and then you subtract the 1 back out after that calculation, and then you move the decimal 2 places to the right by multiplying by 100, and then you add the percent symbol, and then you're going to say either loss or gain, and you're stating that this is the APY, the annual percentage yield. Equivalence, the annual equivalent for what took place during the 90 or 89 or 92, whatever amount of days the simulation took place. I don't remember the day it started. I know it's ending the 12th. When did it start? So January what? Anybody? No one remembers? So you're going to want to look that up in the game rules. We all have access to see what the rules are, and we'll have the date it started and the date it ended in there. Everyone here should have the same number in the denominator because we're all in the same simulation. It's not based on when you bought your first investment. It's based on the day you could have bought your first investment, which is the day the game started. Okay? And then the other calculation, where is it? Also show, so this your APY is one calculation. The other one is also show your profit or loss amount, the amount of money from only one investment, and it needs to be the same one you wrote the other paragraph about when it comes to the PE ratio and beta. Now, if you picked an arbitrary company, because every company in your history didn't have, every one of them didn't have either the PE ratio or beta, then write this last paragraph about any one investment you owned. And how do you find the profit or loss? My big hint, did I put it on there? History. You gotta go to your history. Follow that. Isn't that what I had was your history, so I can look at it right now? Is that your history? It is. So if I wanted to figure out how much he made or lost on this, I go to total cash value. This is the amount he spent to get into this investment, including the fee. That next number right above it, total cash value, is the amount he received minus the fee. You don't have to worry about fees if you use the history page. And I would find the difference between those two numbers showing the work, and it would say something like One of my investments was Court Therapeutic blankety blank. I spent, the cash value or amount of cash I spent to get into the investment with the fee is $3,120.99. The amount of money I received when I sell it after the fee was taken out was $3,585.01, and the difference is 400 whatever profit. And that's the second calculation. It makes it easy if you just go to the history.
So you do or don't include the $6.99?
It's already in that.
So
So you don't have to add or subtract that. It's already, if you're using this page, then you already have the fee taken into consideration both directions. You don't have to worry about adding or subtracting it, what you should do, because you have to add it on this end, you got to subtract it on that end, and you don't have to even remember that if you just use this page.
So, say you spent $4,000 buying stock.
One time you bought one, or you say all together? Like
All together.
Oh, all the stocks, okay.
Right. And you actually have, still over $9,000 left.
Not less.
Say you have,
No, I think you're misinterpreting these numbers at the top. You're saying that it says buying power 9,000 still? Or value
or
says
better,
that? Over
No,
this
no.
number, or this number? Which number are you saying says 9,000? If you have 4,000 investments, there's no way any of these three are 9,000, or they could all be 9,000. But what it's telling you is the value of your investments plus the cash that's not invested added together. This is the value of the whole portfolio, including the value of the investments
oh,
themselves.
I see, okay.
Yeah, they're already added together up
Okay.
here. Now, in your case, this would be the account value for both the investments and the money you don't have invested, but this would only be the money not invested.
I see, okay.
So this should be like 5,000 right here. And this buying power is the amount of cash, so that'd be like 5,000. But right here, 9,000, that's both all the investments, their value right
I
now.
see, okay.
This changes like every few minutes because the value of your investments keep changing. So that's the one you want to look for right there. Unless it's the 13, you want to go to the rankings then and look at what the value is. Because in the rankings, that also includes everything, all your investments and your cash together. And so if I go down to, if you're in 9,000, you're down here. Where are you? Where are you? You have any idea? Huh? What place?
No, I don't know.
Oh, see it there anywhere? I don't see it. I don't remember. Keep going here. Wait, is that it right there?
Wow.
Yeah, okay. You're at 9,657 yesterday. So it doesn't account for what happened today.
Okay.
And that includes everything. If this were the 13th after 6:30 a.m., that is the ending value that you got to subtract from 10,000 to see how much you lost, and then you do that calculation.
I see.
That's the value you want to use right there. And if I go to your portfolio, that same exact, well, after today's transaction, so it's either going to be higher or lower depending on how you did today. Unless you don't own anything, then you do. You said you have
Yeah.
4,000. So, okay, we're going to look at doing it right now. You're at 9,663 at the end of today.
Okay.
So I don't remember what you're at. And then so you made $6 today. Boy, this Blackstone's been killing you.
Oh, that's what I said. I sold,
You had more than 55 shares and you sold some?
I sold, Disney.
Oh, did you?
I guess I should have sold Blackstone.
Well, it looks like you lost another 1% today. I don't know where you're at. You're another $18. So you're down $329 on that one. That killed you.
Oh.
I don't know what Blackstone Group is. Thanks for your help. All right. Any other questions about Investopedia paper? We all feel like we're okay with that? We're going to talk about it again Wednesday if you want.
The last, or you said about the profit or loss, do we have to have one that is sold, or can we still have one that we haven't sold?
You can have one that isn't sold. Just to get the ending value, you would go to your portfolio. Let me go to Paul's portfolio here. Right here. And you would find the value. Oh, he doesn't have one, darn it. You would find what the current value is on the 13th, or I'm sorry, at the end when the market closes the 12th. That makes it tough. Because if you look on the 13th to see what the ending value is, and you hadn't sold it, the value's going to change. So you got to figure out what the ending value was as of the 12th after the market closes. You got to give it till about 4:30 because things settle after 4/30 the 12th, if you haven't sold it, you gotta take the value here. You don't have to subtract $6.99 or whatever because you didn't sell it.
Okay.
And it's not in your history, the amount you spent in your history, and then the amount it's worth today would come from here if you pick that one. Okay? Any other questions? Everybody know what's expected on that paper, right?
There's
Go ahead, Vanessa.
For the PE value, when we talk about it, what do you want us to say? Like if it's a
That's the whole point, is that you have to figure out what it means, because we have talked about it many times in the class, what it means, but, so, I'll do a generic example. Let's say someone does Netflix, and doesn't Netflix have like a PE ratio that's off the charts, something like in the 300s maybe, or 200s, anybody remember? No one, let's pretend it's 200. That's so above the average that you would write about how, you know, with a PE ratio that high, that makes this investment very risky. You know, and then you might quote a half a sentence from something you read about PE ratio, because the PE ratio is taking the current price divided by its current earnings per share, and when it's that high away from the average, just something simple. I'm not going to be, I want you to still be able to fit it on one page, so I don't want you to elaborate too much, but just to show me you understand what PE ratio and beta means, that you caught on to it a little bit. All right? Anybody know? This paper should write itself for the most part, except for that beta and PE, I guess. But the rest of it, like that. And I'm sure, you know. What do you mean? Look at it. If I had a paper this easy when I was in college, I would have written it. Because I hated writing papers so much. I remember another class where I didn't write it. So, because it wasn't like this. Tell me you got a paper from another class, just so I can compare it. It's got to be more than 1 1/4 pages. 15. Now that's a paper that I would hate. I would have to, when I was 20-something, I would have to literally not write. I don't know. I don't know what I would do. That's too many pages. Okay, where are we at now? Let's talk about the house, because the house is due this Saturday, and there's still a lot of you who haven't handed in a house yet. Here's the list. Goes, so we're through one page. Looks like we've got 10, 20, 25, about 25 or 28 houses so far out of 65-ish. And there's, some just got handed in this afternoon. I know each of you did, but I won't be able to look at, each of you two did, and I won't be able to look at those until I get home tonight. Okay, but I'm going in order, so no, if someone else hands it in after you, still your house.
all right.
You already know that house is no good, is that what you're about to say?
I mean, it's the bottom one.
Oh, is this it?
Yeah.
Did I already send you a thing that said,
Look at it later.
oh, I did?
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute, I don't know if this is yours or someone else handed in,
I mean, I know
because
it's
I was in
fine.
the middle of grading yours when people came into my office, and I may have gotten halfway through it and didn't finish, so this could be yours.
Okay.
I'm not sure. And I think it is, I'm not positive.
I think it's too. I think we should think that we're good.
Well, if it's not, I'm going to email you. You have till Saturday to do another one.
I know.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay, if it's on there, I think I was at that point of putting it on, and I was about to write an email to you saying, what do I say when you're done? You're done. Score. And so you'll either get that email tonight or one saying, no, that really was the person, the odds of someone right before you handing in the same house you did, I don't think that happened, so I think that's yours, but I'm not
I
positive.
think so. I'll go with it.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah.
I'm not making promises. So there's a couple houses that have been handed in more than once that just can't be approved. Where is it? This one on Stanley Road in Flushing, and this one on Jewel in Grand Blanc. If you look at the pictures, like both of these have flooring ripped up in parts of the pictures where it's just subfloor underneath. One has where the paint's been peeled off or something. When you see pictures like that, that needs a lot of work, that definitely fits in that part of the rules where it says TLC, not allowed. You know, it's got to be ready to move in. So that's why, and I thought to myself, why should I keep having students hand in those houses again? So now I'm putting them on the list, letting you know they can't be handed in, hoping to stop you from thinking you got one finished when it's already been not approved or something. instead of repeating the whole process over. So the houses again by Saturday, correct? Little other things on announcements. I think I put, that's yours? No. That's yours? No. Let's see. Hand in your late assignments by Monday. If you look and see if you got a 0 on anything, put the answers in your own handwriting, take a picture, hand it in, or just bring it here Wednesday or Monday and hand it in. But after Monday, you finally realize you had a 0 on something and you hand it in after Monday, it's an additional 50% off because you're past the absolute deadline for late assignments. By the way, if you didn't do the car assignment, and we're going back 14 weeks, you can still hand it in. And the maximum I can take off is 60%, so you can still turn that 0 into a 40. Which, by the way, I'm noticing, anytime a student had 3 zeros hand in their late assignments, it affected their grade by 2 positions. Like someone went from a C to a C plus and then a B minus after I turned into 40s. So that's the kind of effect it can have if you have that many. What else is due? Course evaluations. Not even half of you have filled it out as of earlier today when I looked. So all I can see is how many filled it out, but not who did it. So if you do the course evaluation, or if you've already done it, sign in again, go to that completion page. It shows all the ones that finished. Just take a picture of it or a screenshot, send it to me, and you'll get participation. Let's see, the evaluation is only 5% of your participation score. It's not a big deal, but please do it, because I really want to get to 90%. Now, all of those who didn't do it, or who didn't send me in a picture to let me know they did it, usually there's more finished than I got emails. So I take the difference. Let's say there's 6 students who didn't let me know they did it, but only 3 of them are not finished. I will take the 3 that are finished and split the credit up among the 6. So you could get, each person would get a half of credit of the 5% because I don't know who did it and who didn't. So that's how I do it at the end, is I just take the amount that have been done, not claimed, and divide it up among everybody who didn't claim any doing it. So if you did do it, send me a picture so you get full credit for it, for the whole 5%. Emails, you got until the 16th, right? Again, these are, all you got to do is put McCarthy, hit search, it'll bring every email you sent to me. If you can find 2 where you sent me an email and you're not handing something in, and I'm saying you replied to something just saying thank you, that's 1. That counts. There's 2 emails on 2 different dates, not handing something in. You find 2, I'm going to find 2. You don't have to worry about it. And if you don't find 2 before the 16th, send one in saying, here's my participation email. That's fine. Office visits, you know, stop up here after class, stop up on your way to class, just stick your head in. You want participation, it's got to be on 2 different days, and all you have left are until the 16th. Or just email me, say, can we Skype or FaceTime real quick so I can get a participation office visit, and we'll set a time, we'll talk for 5 minutes or whatever you want, and you got it done. Is that it? Is that all I got on deadlines here? Attendance, course evaluation, participation, office visits, and that's all I see. Right? There's the link for signing in. Does that link work? Because I wondered if this link worked. Did anybody try the link that I'm putting right here?
It does.
It does? Then it allows you to sign in when you go to that link, and you can go to your completion page, just take a quick picture or a screenshot. Okay. Let's see, we talked about Investopedia. Well, I can't remember the other thing we were talking about. The house assignment we talked about. We didn't talk about the house assignment, did we? It's got to, yeah, we did. I gave you the list. Again, for those that weren't here when I talked about house assignment, I want to give you a hint. Hang on, I didn't. If you go to Zillow, I don't have a Zillow page open. Darn it. And you take your pointer and put it over the blue dots, it will save you a lot of time. Hey, there we go. And you start looking at what the, or the red dots, no, I'm sorry, not blue. I just did a random house. You add 2 zeros to the square footage. You say, okay, 94,000. Hey, this is priced over 94,000. I probably won't look that one up. Jump to another house, heading towards. I really think Grand Blank's where it's happening. Here we go. Add 2 zeros, 215,000. They ask you price 120. Let me see. Is that a real house? That's a real house. I may have just found one. I was trying to show how fast I can find one earlier, so. I'm curious now. There we go. Somebody want to grab it?
Called it.
You got to hand it in to call it.
Oh, really?
Vero Dell Drive in Davison. Let me just quickly, now, you got to look at the description. Do you see anything that would make me email you back saying, does it say it needs, let your imagination run wild with updates? Ooh, that's scary.
You did that one.
Oh. Yeah, you may not want this house because, I mean, I want to approve it, but if I see pictures with wrinkled carpet, that's not enough to stop it. We keep looking.
Those stains,
Are there?
I wanna know what those.
Oh, boy, that looks ugly.
So much more.
That's still not enough to cancel it. Hang on.
So it can be ugly.
You know, this may pass. You know, there were some where the baseboards moved missing. There's some where you can see the subfloor underneath in pictures. Those cannot be used for this assignment. That's the reason why they're priced so low. You know, they realize you got to put a bunch of money into it. This one doesn't look bad. It looks bad, but not that bad. I don't know. Oh, that looks bad. You see this? Oh, this is the basement though.
That's really not bad though for
Yeah, see, I wouldn't be able to count that. I wouldn't count that against you probably because it's the basement, and it doesn't look like it's really finished.
Would you count against like an unfinished barn or garage or anything like that?
Say it again.
Unfinished garage or barn or?
No,
something like
no,
that?
unfinished garage and barn. No.
Cool.
No. But like, if there were rips behind the washer and dryer where it's obvious it needs work, or you know, things like that, then it can't. Someone hand went in just a little bit ago that I couldn't approve as much as I wanted to. I can't remember who it was. Nobody got an email this afternoon from me saying as much as I want to approve it, I can't. No, I can't remember who it was. But because there was just too many things in the pictures. So there's an example of how I would do it. Put the pointer over, add 2 zeros, and if you find a price lower, there's another one. Is that the same house? I just put the pointer on the exact same house?
That's the same house.
Wow, what are the odds? Anyway, so when I see that much square footage at that low price, add 2 zeros, that should lead you to say, hey, this is probably a house that's pretty low in price compared to the SEV times 2, and you go for it. If you take the SEV times 2, subtract the asking price, and you get a negative number, you really have found a house that's overpriced. And so you need to find one where the price is lower than 2 times the SEV value. All right, we're past all that stuff. We can finish chapter 5. Remember I said home equity loan? I can't remember why I put that on the list. Well, here we go. This is why. I was able to refresh my memory. Because in this chapter, it describes how a home equity loan gets calculated and how it works. And that calculation is a big part of it. And there's a great example on the bottom of page 149, it looks like. 149. There it is. Here's how it works. Home equity loans, when you go to bank or credit union and start looking at their home equity loan rates, they're going to put on there a percentage. The most common percentages I've seen are, 80%, 85%, 75%, I've even seen 90%. These percentages, when you go to look up the rates, are the credit union or bank trying to tell you they will loan up to that percent of the market value, of the home you're thinking about getting a home equity loan for. So let's pretend the market value of a home came in at $100,000. And the bank or credit union says that you're thinking about getting the home equity loan has this 75% described in the information about the home equity loan. That means 75% of the market value. So multiply this times 0.75 and you get $75,000 is the maximum amount you can borrow minus what you owe on any house loan you currently have that the house is being used as collateral for. Let me say that again. You take the market value times the percent, whatever percent that they'll loan up to of market value, and then you subtract any other money owed on this house that the house is being used collateral for. Like, and most people have what's called a first mortgage, a main mortgage, before they go get a home equity loan. And let's say this person owed $50,000 on their mortgage still. Minus $50,000 means, whoops, they can borrow the difference. They'll get approved. If they get approved, it will be for $25,000. 75% of the market value minus what's still owed on the home on any other loan. $25,000, which is described right here. Oh, what a coincidence. I didn't realize that this one is also 75%. Now this I didn't know either. I didn't remember it was 100,000. That's just a coincidence. This home's market value is 100,000. They'll loan up to 75%. That's 75,000. Now, look at it. I don't know how that happened. I mean, I remember looking at this yesterday or the day before, but there's no way I had that in my memory. That's just shocking, actually. Minus what's still owed on it, leaving this is the max that they'll loan or they'll approve for a home equity loan. You will have a question in your future, without a doubt, where you need to calculate the amount that they could be approved for by taking it step by step. The most common mistake here is that a lot of people will subtract what's owed first, then multiply times 75%. It's the opposite. You got to multiply first, then subtract.
Oh, it's Professor, so we'll be giving the
You give,
75?
yeah, all this information. You'll be given the percentage, what the market value is, plus some additional information you don't need to try to trick you. Don't let it happen. The market value, the percent they're willing to loan up to, what's still owed on the loan.
What will the loan be called? Will that be
Home
confusing?
equity loan, most likely. Yeah. Home equity loan, in real life, they're sometimes called second mortgage. All right, we're going to the 5 C's of credit, slide 15. You guys printed. Here they are, if you can see them. They're also in the book, by the way. 5 C's of credit starts at the bottom of page 151, goes all the way through 152 and 153. Those are the 5 C's in detail, but their character. Will the person pay their bills on time? Capacity. Can they repay the loan based on how much they make or how much net worth they have? Capital. What are the assets and net worth of the person asking for the loan? Collateral, what do they have of value they're willing to pledge in case they default on that loan, to guarantee it. And conditions. Lender will review general economic conditions, and really, this is more personal. It goes beyond just general economic conditions. Like if you're working at in an industry that a bunch of layoffs are taking place, that gets taken into consideration. Back when General Motors was laying off everybody here in Flint, and you wrote your jobs at General Motors, that was a condition that they had to look into and say, well, is there a chance you're going to be laid off? Because there was some years there where people are getting laid off every day from General Motors in this area. So that's what they mean by conditions. Or the overall economy, too, is part of it. But your individual condition. So those are the 5 C's. APRs, the hardest part of today's lecture. What are we going to, 20? Slide 20. Remember we talked about APY, which I just demonstrated because you got to do it in your paper. That APY is all about investments. APR is all about loans. That's the difference. One's about investments, one's about loans. The calculation, you need to understand which each variable means. That's the key to this calculation. It happens to be on page, there it is, page 162. Calculations at the top, there's the formula, right there. R is the rate, annual percentage rate, APR, equals, the numerator has a 2, period. That's a 2, that's right there, always a 2. Times, little n. Don't mix up the capital or uppercase N with the lowercase n, because lowercase n and uppercase n have 2 different definitions. This is the part everybody gets confused. The numerator that has that lowercase n is the number of payments that would be made on the loan in 12 months, 1 year. So if that loan has monthly payments, that would be a 12. If that loan only has to be paid back once in a 12-month period, one time, then it's a 1. So it's the amount of payments in 12-month period, 1 year. If this is the loan for 30 years, It's how many payments would be made in 1 year. Is that lowercase n? Then it says I for interest rate, or interest amount, excuse me. What will be the amount in dollar cost for this loan? The interest plus any fees. That's the total cost of having this loan. That's the I. The denominator has an uppercase P, which is how much is being borrowed, called principal. What's the amount being borrowed without any of the fees, no interest or cost? What's the true amount being borrowed? That's what the P stands for. Parentheses, uppercase N plus 1. Uppercase N is the number of payments in the whole loan. If it's a 30-year loan and the payback is monthly, you've got to take 12 times 30. The whole loan. The one in the numerator is the number of payments in 1 year, but the denominator is the number of payments in the life of the loan. And then you add 1 to it, and it's always add 1. You do all that math. Here's the example over here. 2 times 1, because this loan, this $100 loan, is being paid back at the end of a year in one lump sum, one payment, times $10. The person borrowing $100 is getting charged 10% interest, which is $10, and there's no other service fees along with it. So the total cost of this loan with interest and fees is $10. There's the numerator. 2 times 1 times 10 equals $20 total. The denominator, this person's borrowing $100. There's the P. Parentheses. In the whole life of the loan, since it's only a 1-year loan that gets paid back at the end of the year, there's only 1 payment in the life of this loan, so that's why there's a 1 in the denominator. The same 1 that's in the numerator is just a coincidence. This is only a year loan with 1 payment at the end. And then you add that to 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2 times 100 is 200. $20 divided by 200. The true annual percentage rate of this loan is 10%, 0.10. Put 0.10 or move the decimal 2 places and add the percent symbol. It's up to you. I'll take either way on this. 0.10, 10%. Now look at the next example. This next example is where somebody's paying it back in monthly payments, the same loan. 10%, still $10 interest, no service fee. Let's look at it again. 2 times the number of payments in 1 year. Since this is being paid back monthly, that's 12. The interest and fees, $10 is all this person's being charged for the whole year. The denominator, borrowing $100, but then in the parentheses, it's 12 plus 1 because the life of the loan happens to be exactly a year, and there would be 12 payments in the whole life of the loan. So 12 plus 1. So we've taken the denominator, 12 plus 1 times 100 is $1,300. In the numerator, 2 times 12 times $10 is $240. This is the exact same loan. The only difference between the top loan and the bottom is one person gets to pay it off in one lump sum at the end, and the other person has to make payments 12 times during the year instead of waiting till the end. Look at, and they're both 10% loans. They're both being charged $10 in interest. But the person at the bottom, when you calculate the true annual percentage rate, they're 18.5%, where the person at the top was at 10%. 8.5% higher rate, and here's why. The person that has to pay it back before the end of the year does not have use of the whole $100 for the whole year. Because part of paying it back is they're paying back some of the $100 and part of the interest. And so now, let's say the first payment out of the, I don't know, we got, what is it, $110 total divided by 12. We take that, they're paying back, I don't know, $11, let's say. Out of that $11, part of that's for the interest, part principal. Let's say $1 for the interest and, what did I say, 11, and $10 is for principal. Now they only have 90 of the $100 for the next 11 months. They make another payment, now they only have 80 of the $100 to use. Because they don't have the full 100 to use all year long, that's why the rate is truly higher than 10%. Because they didn't have use of the money for the whole year, they're paying back some of it. And their real rate is 18.5. In the 60s, a law passed that if someone's advertising loans, like credit cards, or car loans, or home loans, they have to give not just the rate, they can give the rate, but they have to give the APR, so people are walking in, comparing loans to another, So they know exactly. One loan could be, you have to pay it back quarterly. One loan, you gotta pay it back monthly. They're gonna be two different APRs, even though they may be the exact same rate of loan because of the payback. And there may be fees on one and not the other. That has to be included in the APR. So when you're comparing apples to apples, one home loan compared to another, you should be comparing the APR, not the rate of the loan. Because that's truly what your cost is the APR. So when they pass that law, anybody advertising has to advertise the APR so that consumers can make a clear decision and not get tricked based on the payback. Calculation is not the easiest. The hardest part for most students is realizing what the top end should be and what the bottom end should be. So write good notes on those. The top end is the number of payments in 1 year. The bottom end is the number of payments in the life of the loan. And if it's more than a year, there's going to be more payments than just 1 year's worth. So you got to add them up. How do we feel? Is this okay? There's no doubt this is in your future. APR, it is on page 162 at the top of the page. Next, we're going to amortization. What is that? I don't have a slide on it, but I want to make sure you know what amortization schedule is. So I opened one up if I can find it. Here we go. Here's my favorite one, right here. Amortization schedule allows you to see how each one of your payments will be distributed towards interest and towards principal, bringing the balance you owe on the loan down. The part that goes to principal is the part being subtracted from what you still owe on the loan. The part of the payment that's going to interest is paying the person, the company who loaned you the money. That's their portion. So I want you to see something. So say a $100,000 loan. I'm going to lower this to 5%. 5%. 12 payments in a year. It's a 30-year loan because this is a mortgage. So that'd be 312 times 30 is 360 payments for the life of the loan, right? Right here will be the payment amount. Forget balloon. We can talk about that next lecture. Show amortization schedule. I want you to see the schedule so you can see how each payment goes towards principal and interest, and it changes every payment. So calculate. Each payment will be $536.82. Now down here, you ready? The first payment is going to be $536 and whatever cents. $120.15 of that payment goes to knocking down what you owe to principal. $416 of the payment goes to the lender in interest, which is most of it. And that's how it is at the beginning. And then every payment after that, a little more, if the payment's the same amount, but a little more of it now is going to principal and a little less of it's going to interest. So payment number 2, instead of 15 cents, $120.15, $120.65 going to pay down what you owe. And now instead of $416.67, $416.17 goes to the lender. Now let's go a couple years into it. Same payment, but we've now 132 is going to knock down what you owe, and only 404 is going to interest. And it keeps going that way all the way, and then towards the end, a whole bunch of it's going to principal and very little is going to interest. So let's go to payment number 100. We still have more going to interest than principal. Just keep looking. I want to see where the break even is. We're getting close. Getting close. So to have as much going to principal as interest, wow, we got to get all the way to payment number 194, and now about half of it's going to principal and half's going to interest. And then from this point on, more is going to be going to principal than going to interest. And that's how an amortization. This was all developed so that people will have the same payment every month. It's just that how it splits up is the catch. And more of it's going to interest than principal. And it makes sense. I want you to see something, how this is calculated. I'm going to jump to payment 168. See how 296 going to interest and 240 is going to principal? All I got to do is go right here to see what was owed on the balance the month before that payment. Is this the one we're talking about right here? So 68, 137. If I take 68,000. Is this the one we're talking about? I already lost track. Right there? 68,137.19, and the loan was 5%, right? Multiplied times 0.05, that's a whole year, divided by 12. This determines how much should go to interest, $283.90. It's whatever, every time you bring that balance down, it changes the amount going to interest. So the amount going to principal will bring the balance down more, which means even less goes to interest. So it's always based on the previous month's balance times the interest rate divided by 12. That determines what amount of the payment goes to interest. And the balance is so low towards the end. So if I took $17,912.49, multiply it times 5%, divided by 12, only $74 goes to interest on the payment now. A whole bunch goes to principal because we're in 325th payment out of 380. We're a lot farther into it, and you owe so much less to. I always say to people, there's a lot of people who go, oh, I got a tax refund of $2,000 and I want to pay off, my debt, or I want to invest it. Really, it starts out, I want to invest it. What do you recommend? And I say, well, let me start with this. Do you owe anything on a credit card or any loans at all and that you're paying interest on? And usually the answer is yes. And then I say, well, look at what rate of interest you're paying on anything you're making payments on. Because if you have a loan that you're paying 5% on, by taking that $2,000 and putting it directly towards the principal, like adding it extra on your payment, is the same as making 5% in an investment, because you no longer have to pay 5% interest on that $2,000. It's almost like guaranteeing you're going to make 5% on that investment. So I always say, there's no guarantee of making 5% if I tell you what to invest it in, but you're guaranteed to make 5%. If you have, like some people, a credit card or a furniture loan where they gave you 12 months same as cash, but now the interest started, and it's at 12%, there's no investment, I can tell you right now, that you're going to be almost making 12% with any guarantee. It's very hard to find that without taking a ton of risk. But if you owe something that you're getting charged 12%, and you pay that down $2,000, that's like guaranteeing to make 12% on your investment, because you no longer got to pay that 12% interest on that $2,000. So that's find the highest interest of anything you're paying on, and take any extra money that you're thinking about investing and pay it on that, especially if something's over 10%, because that's the best investment you can make. No longer pay that 10%. All right, we're going to simple interest. This is a review. We've talked about simple interest before. Slide 22. You've seen it already. This is, for example, if the question said, how much interest would there be on this certificate deposit? Or remember the question? It was this bank or credit union charges you 3 months penalty, 3 months interest penalty. Well, this is the calculation you do to figure out how much 3 months interest penalty is. P is the amount of the investment, or the amount borrowed, or whatever, the simple interest, times rate, 3%, 0.03, 5%, 0.05, whatever the rate is. But it's the T. T has to be expressed as its proportion of a year. So if it says how much interest will be made on this investment in 6 months, it'd be 6/12. If it says 3 months, it'd be 3/12. What proportion the time of the credit or investment would be in according of a year? What portion of a year it would be? That's what T is. So principal times rate times time. This is only used when you're being asked about what's the amount of interest being charged or something like that. It has nothing to do with APR. That's completely separate. All right. I hope it's obvious. Go to slide 24. Let's say you have something on your credit report that you found that you want to dispute. Go to the credit agency's webpage and read their appeal or dispute and go for it and do it. Because usually disputes will come out in your favor, especially if it's supposed to be. Usually the credit bureaus are on the side of the consumer more than they are on the side of the company. The company, when you dispute something, the company has to work extra hard to prove that dispute to be wrong. And most companies are too busy to go into all the detail they have to. Using a credit card to buy something has a big advantage, not just when it comes to like dispute on things. One time I bought, it was, I think, some contact lenses, and they sent me something that made me say, hey, wait a minute, this is not what I thought I was buying. I don't remember what the deal was. So I went to their webpage, followed the directions to send it back and get a credit. You know, I'm a person, when I'm about to mail something and I want the credit, I will take a picture of it so that to prove, look, I even had a stamp on the envelope or whatever it is I had to send back. And this happens to be a situation where I never got the credit. And maybe a month went by and I'm thinking, what the heck's going on? And they're saying, no, we never got that, or they're saying they never got it or whatever. I called the credit card company and they are on your side. And I gave a dispute. First of all, their very first question is, did you contact whoever you bought this from? Because they say that's got to be the first step before you can start your dispute. And then if you have, you explain what the response was. And then if you still want to dispute, then they say, okay, here's the process. And all I had to do was email them this little form and a paragraph, what the situation is, and a picture. That picture I took right before I mailed it, I got a response the same day. They gave me the credit on my credit card. And now they sent this dispute on to the place I bought these from, and they had to put together proof that they never got them or whatever the proof was to try to charge it again. So meanwhile, I got the credit right away, and the charge would not go back onto my credit card unless they could provide over and above proof that, you know, I wasn't supposed to get the credit. And they weren't able to prove it. All of these credit reports and credit cards are on the consumer side. So realize that, and that, you know, if for some reason you were supposed to get credit and didn't get a credit, dispute it, and you will get the credit. And odds are, you know, you'll win the dispute. So there's that. Stolen identity. Oh, I've known a couple people that have had to go through this. Write this webpage down, www.consumer, with no S on the end, .gov. Consumer.gov. Matter of fact, right there, stolen identities is where you would click and follow their step-by-step on who you should contact, what forms you should fill out, and they take you through the process to try to get it taken care of. And you do have some work ahead of you, but you want to start on this right away because it will just snowball if you don't. And if you click on that, let's see where it takes you here. Go to the web page. Recover from identity theft, right there. You know, forget what did it. How will I know what is identity theft? What is a credit report? We don't need that. Where does it say how to start? That up here? What to know, what to do. What should you do if someone steals your identity? Right there. Follow this step by step. Do all this. Then visit this website or call that number and do all that. And this person who got their identity stolen, they found out because the person in California who stole their identity had gotten a Comcast cable account, and all of their cable and all the equipment, high-speed internet equipment, digital cable box with recording, all this stuff, was on this Comcast account under someone else's, whose identity got stolen, Social Security number. Blanky blank months went by, Comcast wasn't getting paid, and all of a sudden they sent it to collections, and that's when this person finally got something in the mail owing, it was like $2,000 or $3,000, something like that, and all these months' bills and equipment and late fees and interest. And then they tried to contact Comcast right away to say, hey, this isn't me. And Comcast, for identity theft, does not want to hear from you. They didn't want to help this person. And I said, let me give it a try. Take you straight to a recording every time, no matter what. And you got to do this stuff. If you want them to help you at all, you got to go through this whole process, because they're not going to do it on their own and just take your word for it. So if you and it's happening so much more now that the odds that there's going to be someone in this room that has their identity stolen sometime in the future are pretty good. So don't forget this website so you know how to get started and get things taken care of. Obviously, if you figure out which credit card happened, you want to call that credit card company and get that stopped and shut off right away. And they're usually pretty good about getting you a brand new credit card fast, overnight mail even, because they don't want to lose you as a customer. They just want to shut that one off.
This happened to my stepdad. They were trying to file for unemployment under his name.
Yeah, I've heard about this on the radio just today, how many people have been filing for unemployment under fake names. Yeah. In Michigan was the story about, was it in Michigan that this happened or somewhere else? In Michigan. Was this recent?
Yeah, well, it was like a year ago.
And the story on the radio today said that the state of Michigan has put together some new software to identify when unemployment or any state benefits being applied for by somebody that may be the victim of identity theft. And they said that they have a hotline for people to call when they think that identity theft's been stolen and that there's a state of Michigan thing. And they said their average was $2,000 a month the last couple of years. And then they put the new software in place in January. And they said February, March, they only received 300 calls a month because of the software being able to stop it right away. So it sounds like they put something together to catch it. But over 2,000 a month that this was happening in Michigan alone, just Michigan. And they said it was almost all unemployment benefit theft. Applying for benefits using someone else's social security number, which is, wow, that's crazy. So that sounds like a common one. All right, we know what to do for identity theft. Here, co-signing a loan. We're on slide 29. Are you ready? I say this every semester, and I know you guys are tired of hearing me repeat words, but here we go. Never, never, ever, never, ever, ever, never, 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 I'm looking around, ever co-sign for a loan.
Why?
Ever. You might as well just take the loan out in your name. Because when you co-sign, there is no difference from taking the loan out in your own name and co-signing for someone else. And in a lot of cases, if the person you're co-signing for defaults, they have the right to go after the co-signer right away. First choice in a lot of companies' situations, going after the co-signer. And that you, as a co-signer, will end up paying off some of this loan just to save your credit. And if it goes into default, it will hurt your credit just as much as the person you co-signed for. That there's no difference from the person who took out the loan and the person who co-signed it when it comes to credit reporting.
Does that go for Parent Plus loans too?
Kind of. That's a different story. But co-sign, the most common I hear about are car loans. Now, if you had a parent co-sign for you on a car loan and it turned out okay, that is a very small percent of the situations, the words turning out okay. Because there's a much higher percent of kids asking their parents to co-sign for their first car and it turning into a nightmare and the parent wished they never had done it. So just to go with this rule of thumb, never, ever, ever, ever co-sign unless you just want to ruin your credit. Why let someone else be in control of your credit history? That's crazy. It's too far a risk, and you know, you realize most of you will have children, and most of you about 20 years from now, 16, 17, 18, 20 years from now, will be asked to be co-signing on some loan. Apartment complex rental. You need a co-signer. You're not making enough money. But we'll give you the apartment if someone co-signs. If your child can't afford that rent and they send somebody to collections, they're sending you, the co-signer, to collections because you have the deeper pocket. And the odds of collecting are more, and you co-sign. So there's my rule of thumb for you to help you out in life. It ruins relationships too, by the way, for a while. Never, ever, ever, ever co-sign. Just go with that rule. Figure out a different way. And if you're going to co-sign, if you say, okay, I'll break down, I'm going to co-sign, start shopping around for a loan directly in your name. Don't have them pay you and you pay the loan payment, because if you leave it to them, they may not tell you they stopped paying on it until it's too late and your credit's ruined. You wouldn't know because you left the whole thing in someone else's hands. They're the ones getting the mail that says, hey, you didn't make last month's payment. Hey, you've been 2 months now, you haven't made a payment. You have no idea what's going on. So either just don't do it, or if you're, you know, don't have the ability to say no, figure out a way to get the loan in your own name and do not be the co-signer. I'm sorry. No? Any questions? There's the rule of thumb there. Credit counseling. We have an in-class. Here's my credit counseling real quick. Right here. No, right here. Write it down. About Legal Services of Eastern Michigan. If you happen to be a poor college student, like when I was in college, making only like $8,000 a year or whatever I was making part-time work, if I knew this existed, I would have qualified for it. It's free legal services. I talked to somebody who said they had got a divorce lawyer for free because they weren't making hardly any money, and this place helps. I'm trying to think, you get in a car accident or something like that, and you're involved in a lawsuit, get help for free. So it's called, the website is called lsem-mi.org. It's a nonprofit organization that hook you up with lawyers that will do it for free, or they get paid out of this legal fund from contributors who donate to help people of lower income get legal help. So there's my credit counseling. They do free credit counseling also. Credit counseling, lawyer help. Bankruptcy, whatever you do, the slide is bankruptcy. Try to avoid it. Darn. I'm going to have to cancel the in-class. I have to add this problem to your homework because I want you to see the things that make up your credit. You ready? Here's like if you split what makes up your credit into a pie of 100%, your payment history is the biggest part. 35% of your score is based on your payment history. Debt utilization. This is how much credit you've been approved for. Every time you get approved for a credit card or any kind of a loan, it shows up on your credit report that you've been approved. And it's how much of it you're using divided by the amount you're approved for. The lower that number is, this actually helps your score. So if let's say you add every credit card you've been approved for, and they're each $3,000, $5,000, and you've been approved for $15,000, but you only have balances in the hundreds on each one that add up to 1,000, it'd be 1,000 divided by 15,000. That's low credit utilization, which is a positive towards your score, and it's where is it? 30% of your score is that utilization. Length of credit history is 15% of your score, so you want to get started right away so you have a long, lengthy history by the time you get old like me. New credit applications I told you about when you're at Target, hey, we're offering you 10% off. The more brand new credit applications you have on there, the more effect it has lowering your score. It looks like you're applying for too much credit if you have a whole bunch of them. And they don't come off your credit report for, I think it's like 1 or 2 years. I don't see it on here. 1 or 2 years. And then the types of credits and number of credits you have on there counts towards your score also, 10% of it. But here's some words that kill your credit score. If you've been sent to collections, that collection agency is reporting it on your credit report, it will say collection. That will take your score down significantly. If you have a bankruptcy, by the way, certain bankruptcies stay on your credit report for 10 years, some 7, some 5. There's Chapter 11, Chapter 7, I can't remember the names of them all. But they're on your credit report for a long time. It won't come back off for like up to 10 years. And it has a major effect on your credit score, having a bankruptcy on there. So you're a cash person after that. You know, if you still get to keep your credit cards, at least you have that, but you pay it off in full. And your in-class assignment, you ready? I'm just going to show it to you. How's that? All right. You were supposed to have Rebecca is borrowing $2,500 in 1 year. She's going to pay $125 in interest plus a $10 service charge. What's the finance charge? Obviously, it'd be both the interest and service charge together. And this says calculate the APR. And that interest and service charge in the numerator would be both the interest and the service charge together. So this is going to be added to your homework. So I'll clean that up tonight. Even though homework's posted already, in case you want to start early, go back, because tonight the homework will be reposted with this question added. And this is due in 2 days.
So the first question is just the interest and the service prices combined. combined?
Yeah, what's the total finance charge is those interest and service
Okay.
charges. And then here's that full calculation for that APR is what you'd be doing next. Any questions? Hang on, almost forgot. Hang on, because you're not getting in the thing, I gotta take attendance. Thank you. Now you also are attending. I know attending. All right, I'll see you. See you on Wednesday.
I cannot